What if Lex Luthor was a member of the Court of Owls? How would Lex Luthor be tied into a realm with Bruce Wayne? How would their connection be a little more closer than usual instead of just being connected through Superman? Using architecture, political influence, and forms of assassination to better their power over America or the cities within America, you could only imagine early-aged Waynes and Luthors would 100% want some part of that, especially because they are very powerful families, which is exactly what will happen. Around the 1600s, before the creation of Gotham and Metropolis, a group of Luthors and Waynes come together to create this cult-like cabal to take on the influence of the future America and its cities. Overall, in this story, the origin of the Court of Owls is going to more or less stay very similar to the origin that they already have. The only difference this time being that it is founded and run by Waynes and Luthors. Both of these families are obviously European colonizers, and this is where they decide to build Gotham City. They don't actually have to get their hands dirty and do work. Basically, Gotham is built off of the backs of other people, once again, through their influence, and Gotham will forever be stained by that influence, by that corruption, by the creation of the Court of Owls, along with the Waynes and Luthors. Over the years, as Gotham is being built and order is maintained by the court, this is where the Luthors would decide to branch off, and instead of just keeping the Court of Owls secluded to Gotham, why not move to other cities so they can have even wider influence and power? And this is where the Luthors decide to move out and build the city of Metropolis. Obviously, the court will operate the same way in Metropolis as they do in Gotham, ruling over arguably the two biggest cities in America and puppeteering their way into power. It would make sense as time goes on how powerful they've really become and the fact that they've been able to stay away from the public eye. But as we start to move more into modern day, two young men, Thomas Wayne and Lionel Luthor, they start to quickly become groomed by their fathers for the one day to come where they have to lead the Court of Owls together. Learning all the ins and outs of the Court of Owls, the way they have to make tough decisions, the way they have to order assassinations, and the way they have to lead the court in general. All the secrecy they will have to keep, especially if they choose to have friends and family around who are not part of the Court of Owls in the first place. It's not an easy job. Thomas Wayne, truthfully, will want no part of this. He wants to be a surgeon. He wants to be somebody who's going to save lives and help lives. This is not a field he feels like he is cut out for, but his father will hear none of that. Lionel Luthor, on the other hand, wants this. In fact, he wants it so bad, he's even hoping there's a way he could remove Thomas Wayne from the equation so he could have the court all to himself and bring it into a new light the way he's always imagined it should be. This is where you would also discover the other high-profile, nobility-like families who are part of the Court of Owls. And even though they are not the leaders of it the way the Waynes and the Luthors are, they do still have a lot of power and influence. This is where you would discover Martha, at this time going by Martha Kane. The Kanes would be a very influential Gothamite family that has found their way to be part of the court. Over the years, Thomas and Martha would become very close with one another, each person feeling the exact same way the other feels, wanting to be a good Samaritan for the people, wanting to be able to help people instead of fear-induce, or to control history like a puppet with regular civilians not even understanding that their entire lives, their city they live in, has been molded by this underground organization. Thomas falls in love with Martha, and Martha falls in love with Thomas, but there is unfortunately a problem with this situation. Just like in the medieval colonial times, which there is still some things that the members of the Court of Owls still practice today, Martha is betrothed to Lionel Luthor. She is to get married to him, and in fact, they do get married. Martha obviously does not want to be married to Lionel, but neither does he. In fact, he is only marrying her because it betters his power at leader of the Court of Owls, and also the fact that it is traditions they follow along with. Thomas Wayne would love to leave, but because him and Lionel are not close, he mainly stays to keep an eye on Martha to ensure she will always be safe and never harmed by her own husband. Some more time passes and Martha would actually become pregnant. She would end up delivering a premature baby. It's not healthy enough, it's not receiving the right amount of proteins, it has some sort of disease or sickness, whatever it might be. In all cases and scenarios, the baby is not going to survive. This obviously breaks the heart of Martha, but she does not realize what it does to Lionel Luthor, and he is actually completely heartbroken over the fact that he's not just going to lose this baby, he's going to lose a baby boy. Just like traditional times, like a king would, he is hoping to have a son so that he can continue his leadership line through his children, and a boy is the only way to do that. Lionel will not let this child die, so what he actually does is he induces the baby with the serum that they give the Talons to ensure their bodies are always at all times reanimated. And at this point, Martha just thinks he is batshit crazy and wants no part of them anymore, which he is actually fine with because he doesn't even love her in the first place. All he cares about is having a child to continue his power-hungry legacy. So he actually offers her a divorce, in which she rightfully and happily takes. And as she gets divorced, she follows her true heart and ends up with Thomas Wayne. So you could ask, if that's all Lionel wants, why doesn't he just go with another woman and try and get a baby with her? Since he is intelligent, he is a scientist in his own right, doing studies and tests, trying to figure out what happened to his premature baby, he actually discovers the problem is not with the baby, the problem is not with Martha, the problem is with him. He has reproduction problems of his own. Even if he tried to have a baby with another woman, it's not going to work, and his only chances here are to now cure this premature child. Lionel Luthor will spend a lot of his time at LexCorp shielding himself and his premature child away from the world, constantly doing tests. The thing is, nobody realizes that the reason why Lionel has been acting out far more than he usually does is because he is stressed, anxious, and angry, constantly testing on this baby to see if he can cure it, because nobody knows the baby is even still alive in the first place. Obviously, that all changes when Lionel and his LexCorp instruments finally comes to a breakthrough on saving his baby, in which this child can now grow, have a prosperous life, and continue on his legacy the way he's envisioned it, since Lionel's father, the original Alexander Luthor, has passed down to him. With the Luthors and the Waynes, yes, being business people, but also being celebrities to their cities, everyone would start to see that Lionel Luthor has a child. Who did he have this child with? And of course, this baby is going to be Lex Luthor, the original mother being Martha, but not even she knows this. And whenever they see this child, whenever he pops up in newspapers, is seen on a television broadcast, he has a bald head. Now, you can play around with that. Maybe Lionel purposely shaves his head so no one can tell any relation, or maybe he simply can't grow hair. That is just one side effect or defect Lionel couldn't cure. Lionel will purposefully hide this information from Martha, knowing that she is now a Wayne, and if she learns that is his son, there is a chance that Thomas and her will try to rip this child away from him and raise them in their image instead of Lionel's image. Now, soon after Martha left Lionel and got with Thomas, they had Bruce Wayne. By the time they had Bruce and Lionel cured his premature child, they've been growing up along the same age range. So they're about respectively 8 to 10 years old. During this time, Lionel would be teaching and pretty much enforcing all he knows onto Lex. Lionel, now happy he has a legacy, he starts really changing things on his side of the Court of Owls in what he always imagined would be a best next step for the court. Thomas and Martha are starting to realize he's becoming really unhinged. He's maintaining a lot of the control, and most votes of the family's part of the Court of Owls only seem to be siding with Lionel instead of the Waynes. For those families who do not join Lionel's side of things, he actually gets them all killed and assassinated. Every single family member from those lines, no one left alive. Showing some mercy to Thomas and Martha, because at the end of the day, that child would not be there if it wasn't birthed by Martha. He lets them go and does not threaten them with death. Some years would go on relatively peaceful and safe until one day they start to notice Lionel is making even crazier publicized decisions to the people of Metropolis, where Thomas can't take it anymore and he wants to come clean to everyone about what the Court of Owls is. He wants to present proof, and he wants to tell people to beware who lives beneath your city. Lionel discovers this, and obviously knowing he can't have this, he finds a way to have a privatized meeting with Martha in which he tells her that this boy, Lex Luthor, is actually our premature baby. I found a way to cure him. Here's all the evidence you need to see so that I'm not lying. You can have a chance to be part of Lex Luthor's life, of your son's life. Unfortunately, there's only one way to do that. You need to lead your husband, Thomas Wayne, into a death trap. And if you don't, I will kill both you and Thomas, and both Bruce and Lex will have to grow up without a mother. Be happy you've had the past 10 years to raise Bruce Wayne into the probably great and courageous man he will become. If I have to kill you too, Lex won't have that type of mother figure. Make your choice very wisely. Martha ends up taking the deal, obviously not wanting the love of her life to be murdered, and it's the only way to save her children, because if she were to die, she doesn't know the type of man Lex will grow up to be, and she doesn't know if Lionel will kill Bruce Wayne as well. So on that fateful night where Bruce's parents die, it was all a ploy. Lionel Luthor actually funnels the hit on the Waynes through a third party, brings it through the Falcones, which the Falcones brings it through Joe Chill. Joe Chill knows as much that he has to kill Thomas Wayne, and he has to kill Martha Wayne, and after doing so, knocking out the boy Bruce Wayne. The hit happens. Thomas Wayne gets shot and dies. Martha gets shot by blanks that make it look like she dies, and Joe Chill knocks out Bruce before he runs away. Very soon after, Martha gets up, gives one final kiss to Thomas as he lies dead, and also gives one final kiss on the forehead to Bruce Wayne and whispers to him, "Grow up to be like your father. Be a good man." And she is basically escorted by Lionel Luthor's men. Martha is then replaced by a body double who literally looks just like her. You would even think it is a clone of her, which you never know LexCorp Industries could be getting into that business. After this, to avoid any type of conspiracy, Martha is then forced to live the rest of her days in LexCorp or in certain places places underground of Court of Owls headquarters. Lionel Luthor would actually end up dying only a couple of years later, and Martha Wayne would actually have to become the interim leader of the Court of Owls until Lex Luthor becomes of age. And as she is the leader, she tries to shape the Court of Owls into the image that Thomas Wayne would have had, and it's more so making the Court of Owls a savior of the people, making them like a silent protector or a guardian, and no matter how much she tried to do it, it just did not work. So eventually, as many years would pass, Bruce Wayne would go off to learn how to become Batman. Lex would fully become CEO of LexCorp. He would also become the leader of the Court of Owls. Over 3 or 4 years of being Batman and clearing Gotham City of all of its elite mobs, Batman starts to come across a lot of very interesting information about the Court of Owls. Digging in as much as possible, Batman figures out about the Court of Owls and even realizes that his parents were a part of it, along with the Luthors. He then finds out that Lex Luthor is the leader, in which Batman has to stop this organization. Learning that Batman is breathing down the neck of Lex Luthor and he knows a lot of information about the court, enough to take down Lex Luthor with it. He doesn't know every single secret they have. Lex decides to change the game and actually call his bluff. He does what Thomas Wayne was originally going to do, but for a nefarious purpose. Lex decides to publicly denounce the Court of Owls and to basically tell America the Court of Owls is this evil cult-like organization that has used its influence to assassinate and blackmail for their own needs and goods and services and power, making Lex look like this powerful billionaire who is for the people. And the Court of Owls needs to operate far more differently. It's what his father Lionel believed, and it's what Lex Luthor is going to actually put into power now. Being more public and shielded by a powerful billionaire in Lex Luthor, it allows their influence to be more free and to be more powerful, making people feel like being part of what Lex Luthor is building is actually a really good thing. And the biggest reason why this is a change in this story, the Luthors, but Lex Luthor in particular, he's narcissistic and arrogant. Being part of the Court of Owls, I don't think is something that any usual Lex would want to actually be part of. He's all about himself. He's all about his own influence and power. And that's why I think he would fundamentally try and change what the Court of Owls is even about, to the point where they're not even the same organization anymore. Lex would turn the Talons more into a militant system. Batman would have to fight his way through them and finally come face to face with Lex Luthor, where he learns a lot of deep, dark secrets. The fact that Lex is his half-brother, of course. And then the biggest revelation is finding out that his mother is not dead and actually coming face to face with Martha Wayne as well, and being able to talk to his mother after all these years. Then you would also find out that Lionel Luthor died by the hands of Martha Wayne, out of the rage and anger of the decision he made her make, killing the love of her life and abandoning Bruce Wayne. She covers it up as some sort of maybe lab accident, and she also led Lex Luthor to believe that is how his father died. Even though Luthor didn't necessarily love his father Lionel, it still puts him over the edge, making him want to kill his mother Martha. Of course, Batman is not going to let that happen. He ends up defeating Lex Luthor and putting a stop to his plot, unveiling to the world that the Court of Owls is real and Lex Luthor was the leader of it. Every single person who was part of the court gets arrested except for Martha, who Bruce obviously takes back home with him and lets her live in Wayne Manor and the Batcave until she fully decides what she wants to do and how she wants to come back from the dead, basically. Now there's a very interesting dynamic that the two biggest billionaires and two of the biggest superheroes and villains in the world are brothers. The way this story would officially end is when Lex Luthor spends some time in prison. He eventually earns his way out, either it be through the billions of dollars of funds that he could post bail if he escapes, or if he cheats the justice system into letting him out. After all that, Luthor will develop a new team with a new name, and they're also going to have some different practices. And he's going to call that team the Secret Society. So there it is. That is how I would draft a potential story of the Luthors being in the Court of Owls with the Waynes and creating it alongside them. So you guys let me know in the comments below what you thought and how you think the Court of Owls would look if Lex Luthor and his family were part of it. But I hope you all enjoyed the video in general, and until next time everyone, I will talk to you all very soon.